orient ourselves. What are we doing here?
We're going to debate. We're
A little Q&A, because you'll have maybe questions that come up as you try to do your debate. It is. Am I not on stage? Okay.
Microphone check.
Can no one hear me? Maybe you've locked it.
Microphone
Hello?
check on 1.
Did you click the... On your end, you can also mute people. Oh, I think I turned off the headphone sound. So there's a switch on the headphones. So there's a switch meaning a volume slider. A volume slider on the headphones itself. Yeah, sorry about that.
Microphone check. Okay. Microphone check.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a demonstration debate. And let's see, do you have a timepiece that we can keep track of time? Perfect. Okay, so just keep an eye on that every few minutes. Checking. Okay, so we'll start with our motivation for both of us to increase our wisdom, to reduce our ignorance. Okay, so we'll continue in the same vein as before with this relatively simple topic of, what constitutes a Frenchman. Okay, so take this subject, so we can start either with a statement of pervasion or right away with a thesis statement. That's really up to you. Okay, so it's generally quite common to start with a statement of pervasion. So let's start off again that way. So it follows that. Put it this way. It follows that if someone lives in France, then they are necessarily French.
Why?
Why? Okay. So it follows that if someone lives in France, they are not necessarily French. Okay, so again, the first pervasion statement was rejected with a why, so you just give the direct negation of it. They are not necessarily French.
I accept.
You accept. Can you posit an example?
Yes.
Like a named person or just a general?
Sure.
Anything you like.
American tourist John.
American tourist John.
Who's in Paris right now, climbing the Eiffel Tower.
He's climbing the Eiffel Tower. Okay, great. Which is funny because my Uncle John is American and he had his honeymoon in Paris. So we can say, my Uncle John at his honeymoon in Paris. Bam, perfect.
Just a lucky guess. I don't have powers of clairvoyance, please.
Okay, so take that subject, my Uncle John. Okay. It follows that he is living in France.
Yes, I accept.
Okay. Follows that he is not French.
I accept.
So that's, again, the next step after someone posits the counterexample. He first rejected the pervasion. They give the counterexample. That was the defender's work. Now it's the challenger's work. You check each branch of it. The pervasion statement has two facets, right? If A, then it's necessarily B. Okay, so, or in this case, it's not necessarily B, right? So we have to check. So what does it have to be? What has to, the good example that a defender will give is going to be something which is A, the person who lives in France, but not B, a French person, right? So I check each of them. Good, so it follows they're not French.
I accept.
Take the subject, my Uncle John on his honeymoon. It follows that he is not French because, okay, so that's the next step. All right, right there. One of the next steps. There's a lot of options here. That's the one I chose, asking the defender for a reason. Because, so now this is one of those open-ended questions. And then, right, actually, it will take some thinking to make sure it's a good reason.
Because he has not acquired French citizenship through birth or through naturalization.
All right, there we go. And that's like, not the longest reason. It's a fairly succinct reason, but it still is complete. And that's exactly what we're going for. A reason which it's understandable, it's complete, but it's also succinct. You don't want to give a whole lecture as your reason, right? Okay. So what has to follow now? Any help from the audience, from our students? What do I want to, first of all, go to? A thesis statement, a three-part syllogism, or a pervasion statement? Pervasion statement, excellent, right? As the challenger, now I want to ask a statement of pervasion because he just gave a reason, and when a reason is a good, correct, and flawless reason, then it has to have a pervasion. If it's the reason, it's necessarily the predicate. Okay, and so what will that pervasion statement sound like? Yeah, in this particular example, so shall we go through it again, right? Take the subject, my Uncle John on his honeymoon. It follows that he is not French because he is not.
He did not acquire French citizenship at birth nor through naturalization.
Okay, so what was the predicate? Not French. Right? It's a predicate with a negation. Not French. Okay, what was the reason? He did not acquire French citizenship through either birth nor through naturalization. Great. So it follows that if someone has not acquired French citizenship through either birth nor naturalization, then they are necessarily what? Not French?
I accept.
So this is got a good sound, but it's too easy to make a loud sound with it. Very hollow. Okay.
I accept.
Great. So now what do I have to do? What's the next step? I'm asking for some guesses, or if you're confident, either way, if it's just a total guess, what do you think the next reasonable step would be? Awesome, okay.
How do you defend yourself from this point? Because he said something you can't really negate. It doesn't reasoning make sense.
Well, so this is the thing. Okay, so we got two different answers from people here, and I'll repeat them because so everyone can hear. So someone said, you come up with an example. The other person said, well, how can you actually defend or continue to challenge that because the reasoning makes sense? Well, so that's the thing. If the reasoning really makes sense to you as and you're the challenger, and you're like, yeah, that's like a solid reason, and I really don't feel like there's anything worth questioning there, continuing to probe and try and disprove, right? The defender, if I really think that's true, I can frankly just leave it and start a new question, basically move on to a go somewhere else slightly different. Or I can do, what was the other suggestion? To give an example. So I can think of a counterexample, someone who has not acquired French citizenship through either birth nor naturalization, who is French. Okay, you wanted to throw in something there?
Well, the other thing, so when I gave that reason, there's two things that I was asserting. And you guys only mentioned one of them, the pervasion. But what is the other thing I assert when I give that reason? No.
What does it mean when you give a reason?
So one person said the opposite is not true. So I'm saying an explicit, okay?
Let's do it again, okay?
Okay.
Just so everyone you can hear it and remember.
All right.
Take the subject, my Uncle John and his honeymoon in Paris. He is not French because?
Because he did not attain French citizenship through birth or through naturalization.
So you're asserting that if someone doesn't have French citizenship, let's say they have French origin, French genes or whatever, then they can't claim to be French.
Well, so that's the pervasion still.
But let's keep it very, very simple.
Just the literal words.
I didn't use those words, French genes, anything.
Right.
So what I've just asserted is, so you just play back my words. Don't add any embellishment. Don't add any icing on that cake. Okay, here? Yes? Yeah?
Neither born in France nor has acquired naturalized
Great.
That's right.
So it's another
So-
thesis statement.
So John did not acquire French citizenship through birth nor through naturalization.
So even there, that could be, as a challenger, another option to continue
Okay.
on the debate. I can just restate that. Take the subject, my Uncle John on his honeymoon in Paris. It follows that he did not obtain French citizenship through either birth or naturalization.
I accept.
That's just a clarification.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he had already accepted by.
We're saying the two ways that a reason can not be valid, we answer. And then there's the no pervasion, that the subject is the reason, but if something is the reason, it's not necessarily the predicate, right? So for my reason to be good, it has to be free from those potential faults. And so as the challenger, you can check those one by one.
One by one.
Okay? All right.
So you can already see how we could just have a 30-minute debate just from that response. What do we have to check? We have to check that my Uncle John is someone who lives in France. We have to check that he is not French. We have to check that he did not obtain French citizenship through either naturalization or birth. We have to check, is there pervasion, so that is it true that I cannot find in the entire universe another example of someone who is French but did not obtain French citizenship in those ways? Okay, so all that, you can see how right from that very first statement of pervasion, denying it, and then coming up with that reason to prove, those few steps we went through, that we can already go out into a whole, you could go on and on with this one set of positions. Now, someone else made a very good point, which I'll just quickly repeat, which is that what else did he accept? What, can you repeat it again?
To be French, you have to have the definition of being French is to be.
Well, he didn't actually state that's the definition, but you're right in that he also accepted, by giving that reason, that if someone is French, they've necessarily obtained French citizenship through either birth or naturalization. So it's the reflection, you could call it, of the pervasion statement.
Actually, respectfully, I did not accept that. Because French because, or not French because, right? So explicitly, they're not French because they, how do you say?
Yeah.
They didn't attain French citizenship through this or this. So the converse actually could be true, right? I didn't say anything what it means to be French. I made a statement about why that person is not French. So it's still, when we say defining characteristic, you haven't pinned me down on my definition what constitutes someone as being French. All I did is negating that John is French, right? So another move could be then that you would want, or to ask me, okay, someone who is French, and then why are they French, right? Do you know what I mean? But
so where do we go? So I choose one of those options, and thank you for the clarification. I choose one of those options that we just laid out. Okay, so I'll try to come up with a counterexample. That's what I'm choosing. How about a good counterexample? Good counterexample. Can someone help me out here? I'm thinking someone who is French but did not acquire French citizenship in those ways. How about I'll take a, do we got one? Take the subject. Go ahead.
Someone with French heritage, and try to get you into the definition.
Sure. So I'll say, maybe just for the sake, it would be a little fun. We'll see how Gimel responds. Take the subject, Napoleon Bonaparte, right? Napoleon. It follows that he is not French.
Why?
Because he did not acquire French citizenship through either birth nor naturalization.
Reason not true.
The reason not true. Take the subject, Napoleon. Follows that he did acquire French citizenship through either birth or naturalization.
I accept.
Okay, it follows that he is a citizen of France.
I accept.
It follows that he's a citizen of France. It follows he's not a citizen of France. Does anyone know French history well enough to see where I'm trying to go with this? This is one of those places where you do need a little bit of knowledge. It follows that someone from the French colonies would be a better example. Okay, so maybe I'll let that one go because I don't really have a better reason to give. So that's another thing that's okay. I might say, like you said before, that was a good enough reason. We have a... Question? Comment? Oh, C. C means comment. Great.
So Marina gives the counter example, and it says John who married a French girl and lived in France with her for 4 more than years and become friends.
But that's
That's a large scope of mathematics. I didn't even answer that.
Well, how about we take the subject like, what about who's like a really old French historian?
Half French, half German.
How many ago?
Charlemagne.
Was there already French citizens already? I don't know. You don't know. Before France was a country. Right. I don't think we're going back far enough, though. I mean,
How?
anyway, we can take the next suggestion as we continue the debate.
Yeah. No. So, okay. Now, what I would do, right? Because it was they're not French, right? So you could say, for example, like Bordeaux wine.
Right.
Bordeaux wine. It follows that it's not French.
Right.
So
Or
right. So if you want to, do that.
So what if we right now do that debate again? Do we still have a couple minutes? But just without breaking it up.
We can take minutes.
Take extra minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take them very lightly, but a couple.
We'll borrow them.
We'll borrow them. So let's just do it so everyone can just see when it just flows from one. Living in France, that they are not necessarily French.
I accept.
Okay.
I'll turn off the video first because they cannot hear the audio. The internet is really bad.
Okay. I could also turn this off, meaning we don't really need this one. It's using bandwidth, right? Okay. Great. Posit an example.
Your Uncle John.
My Uncle John, while he's in France.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Who is currently in France?
Take this up. It follows that.
Hello everyone, sorry for the hiccups. We're working on it. Seems like they have a small hiccup on their end because from what I heard from a couple of people, or many people here are reporting that the stream is not coming through, so maybe there's something wonky with the network connection on their end. We're in touch, we're trying to fix it. Let's give them maybe 1 or 2 minutes to see whether a quick fix is available, and if not, then I suggest we use the time to maybe break into debate groups and practice a little. But let's be patient for 1 or 2 minutes and see whether they can resolve it quickly.
Yeah, if you're gonna give them training.
Okay, can you hear us now? Sorry about that. That was completely just a foolish mistake of not using the technology correctly. So what we're doing now is we're going to spend a few minutes to just do this debate without any breaks or interruptions, okay? And what I'm going to do is just use the very precise language when I'm making a pervasion statement of just saying it follows that if it is A, then it is necessarily B, recognizing that it can refer to humans or objects or abstract phenomena, whatever we want it to. Because in Tibetan, that's what's done. There actually is no pronoun. So we were just explaining that. In Tibetan, you don't have to choose between saying if it or if something or if someone. There just isn't the need for that pronoun there. So we'll just say it. Okay. Take the which is then may make it difficult for Venerable Namjung. So we're just going to go for a few minutes. Okay, so we're starting off again with the D. It follows that if it lives in France, then it necessarily is French.
Why?
Okay, it follows that if it lives in France, then it is not necessarily French.
I accept.
Posit an example.
Your Uncle John on his honeymoon in Paris.
Take the subject, my Uncle John on his honeymoon in Paris. It follows that he does not live in France.
Why?
Oh, it follows that he does live in France.
I accept.
So
You're
it follows
tricky.
that.
Trying to pull a fast one.
My brain pulled the fast one on me and caused me to misspeak. So
Luckily, I had my
take
afternoon
this
coffee
subject.
today.
Take this subject, my Uncle John on his honeymoon in Paris. It follows that he is not French.
I accept.
He is not French because
He is not French because he neither acquired French citizenship through birth nor through naturalization.
okay. So take that subject. It follows he did not acquire French citizenship through either birth nor naturalization.
I accept.
It follows that if it did not acquire, so in other words, I'm saying it sounds awkward. That's okay. It follows that if
Have
it
more
did
respect
not,
for your uncle, man.
exactly. It follows that if it did not acquire citizenship, French citizenship through either naturalization or birth, then it is necessarily not French.
I accept.
Okay, so take the subject, right? Take the subject, a croissant. Take the subject, the delicious buttery croissant. It follows it is not French.
I accept.
Okay, so I have to think. It follows that it is French because it is French cuisine.
Reason not true.
Ooh, take the subject croissant. It follows it is not French cuisine.
I accept.
Take the subject, duck something? Braised
Foie
duck.
gras.
Foie gras. Oh, that's that stuffed goose, right?
Ugh.
Foie gras. It follows it is not French cuisine.
I accept.
Take the subject, onion soup. It follows it is not French onion soup. It follows it is not French cuisine.
I
Take
accept.
the subject, French fries. No, don't take, don't take French fries. Okay, so take the subject. So now,
I'll take
okay,
French fries.
It gets to a point where if you just keep doing that, it'll be silly. So we want to see what's on Genla's mind. Okay, take the subject, the croissant. Okay, it is not French cuisine because.
It is not French cuisine because
Don't just say because it's not French.
that is a standard move. I would say because it is produced outside of France.
Okay, follows if it's produced outside of France, it's necessarily not French cuisine.
I accept.
Okay, it follows if it's produced outside of India, it's necessarily not Indian cuisine.
I accept.
Take the subject Indian cuisine, it follows it doesn't exist. If something is cuisine, if it is cuisine, it's necessarily not Indian cuisine.
Why?
Give an example.
Today's lunch that was made here at Yigachulian Monastery, monastery guest house.
Okay, so I see now I can just, anyway, not to do too much commentary, but I'll go back to the other subject. Take the subject, a croissant baked in Paris,
Okay.
it follows that it is French cuisine.
That I'll accept.
Follows it is French
Why?
because it's French cuisine.
No pervasion.
Follows if something is French cuisine, something just naturally came out. Follows that if it is French cuisine, then it is not necessarily French.
I accept.
Follows that if it is a French person, then it's not a French citizen, then it's not necessarily French.
Why?
This is where we bring in something else, another way to keep the debate going. Follows that there is a pervasion because if it is French cuisine, then it's necessarily, sorry, if it is French cuisine, it is not necessarily, sorry, I'll start over. Okay, it follows that if someone is a French citizen, they are not necessarily French. Why? Follows that if someone, so then restate what he did accept. Follows that if someone is a French citizen, then they are necessarily French.
I accept.
Okay. Follows there is no pervasion because if something is French cuisine, it is not necessarily French, and those are analogical reasons.
Reason not true.
So you can say that as your reason. That's an analogous reasoning to the other one. Okay, it follows it is not analogous to the French cuisine because. So now he has to explain what's different about those two scenarios, right? Why is a French citizen necessarily French, but not French cuisine necessarily French?
Huh?
The analogous reasoning would be.
Is time up yet? We're
So and then of course when the bell rings, so to speak, then
yeah.
wherever
No,
you got to.
so how about I just do this and then we'll call it a day.
Okay, you give one.
So I'm going to say what it means to be French is to be a French citizen.
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
just defining.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
way. Okay, no
Yeah.
problem.
In
And
the context of the debate.
say it again.
What it means to be French is to be a French citizen.
So what makes that? And so it just doesn't apply to cuisine.
Yeah.
Okay. There. Okay, so there is a demonstration, and that you can see it's fun, it's enjoyable. You have to think, and there's a lot of freedom, a lot of different ways you can go. So why don't we break out? If there are any questions online, we'll take those. Then we can have people break out, and then if anyone here has a question, we'll just everyone break out into a pair with your partner, and then anyone with questions will just come to you separately.
And any extremely urgent questions now that need to be answered before we do the exercise?
Yes. Okay.
When the question of croissant came and you said you can't say because it's French. The reason can't be French again because you're examining whether croissant is French.
The reason was because it's French cuisine.
No, I think you said that, that a sort of not so nice thing you can do is say because it's French. And
Oh.
people think, and you're saying to him, don't say that.
Right. So that's why,
I
right.
When someone says the same reason as they're trying to prove.
Right.
how do we-
So he's asking, what if someone, so when that came up, when I gave as a reason to try and prove that the croissant is French because it's French cuisine, and he denied. So I said, it's not French cuisine because, and I said, don't say just because it's not French.
Right.
Because that's the thing that had to be proven, right?
Right.
So what if someone gives that as a reason? Well, you just don't. I mean, you have some respect.
Well, so you understand why that's not a great answer. You're involving circular reasoning, right? So if someone does that, then yeah, you'd say, well, it follows that they are French. It's not French because, and then you just say that. You can still then put them on. It's not French because.
Right. You ask them for a reason for that.
Right. Now, if I wanted to be difficult, I would say because it didn't acquire French citizenship, blah, 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 blah. Right? And then I would go back to my position.
So this is what I mean, like have some basic respect means like recognize that if you're just saying the same thing over and over again, you're not going to progress anywhere. Yeah. That's right. So the comment was sometimes the circle is very big. So maybe you've been debating for 20 minutes and then it does come back to something that was said previously. But that's a little different because you've established other things on the way. And then it's like, okay, let's go back. Do you still want to hold that position or maybe something's changed, right? And that's how we get a strike, is actually by doing that. You go back to something that was said before after going down a line of reasons and say, you sure you still have that position? And if they change it, then you give a strike, right? Okay, let's debate. Anything else? Let's debate. All right, we'll come back. We'll call everyone back.
Sorry,
Time-
Lekshay.
time check.
So I was asking for urgent questions that need to be answered before we can do the exercise. So if they're not of that nature, we'll attend to them later with respect.
Is it? We have time still.
Okay?
Okay, so we'll call everyone back in 15, 20. Oh, okay. Well, we'll see how it goes. Not much time.